Welcome to Comics on a Pyre, a channel to have a meaningful conversation over movies, life, books, and shows, and maybe just a spot to spend time BSing over comics. If you like your entertainment with a bit of substance, then you, my vagabond friend, have come to the right tavern. Tether your horse by the post and come right on in and warm yourself by the fire. Tap that subscribe button, and for the next few minutes, my fellow George Carlin reprobate, lend me your ear. X-Men Mythos #1 was published in March of 2006. And what an issue it is. When I read the synopsis of the book before I dove into it, the write-up said it was a retelling of the first X-Men title that was published way back in September of 1963. I would not say that this is a fair analogy, as though the premise is roughly the same. It is a way more modern remake of the single issue. I would recommend anyone who is interested in reading the X-Men Mythos read the original comic on which this one is roughly based off of. As if you do, you will see not only glaring differences, but get an overall more powerful sense on how comics have evolved as a medium, therefore giving you reader more meaning and weight. But enough with all the preamble. Let's start breaking this issue down. First off, let's start with the word mythos that takes center stage on the front cover. Mythos is a subgenre title given to a 6-issue series of one-shots, Marvel Comics, which were written by Paul Jenkins and fully painted by Paulo Rivera. Each issue is based on the origin story of a particular character or group within the Marvel collective universe. For example, there's also Mythos one-shot on Hulk, Ghost Rider, Fantastic Four, Captain America, and of course Stan Lee's pride and joy, Spider-Man. Paul Jenkins remarked in several promotional interviews that the project was to be used to bridge the gap between the comics and the more recent movie adaptations that were coming out, as a means of sorts to introduce new readers to the material, for those with little knowledge of these characters' comic histories, and so that they may better appreciate the movies. I guess this is another way of saying modernization of old tales for a new audience. And that is exactly what he did with this X-Men title, because for one, it is very violent and touches on what can very well be real world events happening today. As at the beginning of the comic we find Magneto, aka Eric Lencher, exterminating 3 Buffalo County, New York men. But Eric doesn't commit these acts for pure pleasure or simply because he can. These 4 men are accused of a hate crime murder of a 12-year-old girl, a child by the name of Sarah Cullen. Her sin was that she had grew an extra appendage near her uppermost rib, and for that most egregious transgression, these men kidnapped her and threw her from the back of a moving pickup truck to the chorus of "Have a nice day, Mutie." When the child's body was found, she was rushed to a nearby hospital and pronounced dead on arrival. So instead of taking the chance of these men having a quote-unquote fair trial and getting let off scot-free, as men like these so many times before have done, Magneto takes matters into his own hands, Punisher style. Or I can also say John Grisham style as well, like in the 1996 movie, A Time to Kill. Now, if you have been watching this channel for any length of time, then you know Magneto is my favorite character in the X-Men franchise. And I don't consider him a bad guy. He is just a man that will go to extremes to protect his own. A Malcolm X of a Marvel universe compared to the Charles Xavier's Martin Luther King. A man who tries to resolve his disputes by peaceful means. But you will find out at the end of this comic, as I did, that peaceful tactics can be taken advantage of by less than scrupulous opponents. And like George R.R. Martin tries to come across in the Game of Thrones, and Niccolò Machiavelli writes in the book The Prince, a good man will not survive in a political system full of vipers. The one thing that I always find amazing is that while Magneto is killing the men, they themselves beg for mercy, for him to spare their lives. Why should they have any mercy when they have denied the innocent child of her life? For when they killed her, I know that she begged for hers. Anyway, after the executions, we are segueing into the next story. Professor Charles Xavier, both dean and founder of the School for the Gifted, views the aftermath of the murders on a news report. But what he finds just as disturbing, though, is the disapproved New Mutant Registration Act, a new piece of legislation that, if approved, would force every mutant to register and therefore be easily identified by the government. This, of course, is a proposition that he finds most disturbing. And so Charles calls his founding X-Men into a new danger room. One that in my 30 plus years of reading X-Men comics, I have never seen before. The roster has not swelled yet to include the plethora of X-Men members that we know now today. No, during this event, only the original founding members serried into the exercise facility. And their numbers we have the Frigid Iceman, aka Bobby Drake, who can make ice appear out of thin air. The ever-loving acrobatic and nimble Beast, aka Hank McCoy, whose physical strength is only matched by his intellectual prowess. Angel, aka Warren Worthington III, whose angelic wings give him extraordinary ability to fly. Marvel Girl, aka Jean Grey, who is both the only female member and one of the world's strongest telepaths. And lastly but not least, Scott Summers, who is the point leader on this mission and a deadly shot with his powerful concussion beams, otherwise known as in the X-Men video game industry as Optic Blast. On this day, the group will be going through an exercise in teamwork by reenacting Napoleon Bonaparte's Battle of Waterloo. They will work together to overcome the danger room's most dangerous obstacles, an exercise that they complete, I would say, in flying colors. But at the end of their practice run, Charles tells the team of a real-world threat that they must encounter and overcome. Their first confrontation with the master of magnetism himself, Magneto. Now this is where I will abandon the plot directly, as I would like you to read the comic for yourself and enjoy it. But there are a few things that I would like to point out before I conclude this video. When Eric and Charles talk at Cape Citadel, it is quite clear that even though it is the team's first encounter with Magneto, the professor knows him well. In fact, the two have a mutual admiration for each other. But I believe it is Eric who comes out on top in this duel of words and ideas. As he states when Charles accuses him of committing acts of war, he rebuttals, "We invade countries to free its people from tyranny, and that's war. But fight tyranny at home, and you're considered a terrorist." You see, Magneto sees things Charles doesn't, but it will soon be revealed to him. Eric also sees what the government is doing, how they are positioning mutants to be seen by the mass of society. He states, "Mutants are the new scapegoats. Find a good scapegoat, and you have the cure for all that ails a country's spirit." It worked for Hitler by blaming the Jews at the beginning of World War II, and it will work in modern times. As we've all heard on the news recently, they're bringing drugs, they're bringing crime, they're rapists, and some, I assume, are good people. Sound familiar? Magneto tells Xavier that mutants are powerful, and the powers that be don't like that. They will not sit idly by and have their powers wrested from their grasp without a fight. Charles knows this himself, even though he plays coy. After all, that is one of the main reasons that he had created the X-Men team himself. In his final play, Magneto tells Xavier why he hit Cape Citadel facility. Even though Charles trusts the humans, Eric does not. In fact, this seemingly innocuous military outpost doubles as a DNA testing facility. The country's hard-earned tax dollars are being used right there in a nationwide covert surveillance operation. labeling and identifying every mutant that walks the planet. Even now, unbeknownst to Charles, one of the most powerful telepaths on the planet, the government has secretly assigned him a number and tagged him a mutant. At the end of his speech, Magneto states, "I believe Nazi Germany was the first to perfect this particular system of operation." You see, Magneto has been through this as a child. He was a Holocaust survivor. He sees what's coming down the road. He survived the internment camps of Auschwitz. While Xavier has been working to bridge the gap peacefully between mutants and men, the government has been going behind his back and categorizing them for when they go to war. And Eric shows him the proof. So now it's up to Xavier to decide which team he's going to be on in the fight against Homo superiors versus human. In a Game of Thrones, either you win or you die. Well, I think I said enough on this particular episode. If you like this video, then by all means visit my comic book YouTube channel, Comics on a Pyre, for other videos like it. While there, make sure to tap on that bell icon to be notified when the next video drops. But in the interim, as always, till next time, keep reading, my friends.